Hello, welcome to Levant TV headlines. The UN Syria envoy Staffan De Mistura says Damascus is willing to facilitate a humanitarian ceasefire by halting fire on Aleppo, where regime troops are engaged in a new offensive to encircle embattled rebels. Islamic State militants have burned at least 45 people to death in the western Iraqi town of al-Baghdadi, as details on the victims and why they were targeted remain unclear. Egypt has called on the United Nations to lift an arms embargo in Libya as Cairo pushes for greater international efforts to combat jihadists in its war-torn neighbor. 4 Tunisian police have been killed in what the government labeled a terrorist attack in a region known as the base for the country's most dangerous Islamist group. And Turkish lawmakers and media reports say 5 legislators were hurt in a brawl that broke out in parliament, during which chairs allegedly were hurled and lawmakers were attacked with the speaker's gavel and bell. And now the papers in the Middle East. Starting in Cairo with the Egypt Independent that leads reporting that Egypt's customs services in Alexandria have seized 400 copies of Walls of Freedom, a book depicting Egypt's street graffiti art in the context of the 2011 uprising for instigating revolt. The paper also reports that thousands of disciples of the Sufi orders flocked to Hussein Mosque over the past week amid tight security to celebrate the Prophet Muhammad's grandson Al-Hussein's birthday in Cairo. From Lebanon, the Daily Star leads reporting that former Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri will host a dinner meeting at his residence in Beirut today with Free Patriotic Movement leader Michel Aoun and his son-in-law, Foreign Minister Speaker Nabih Berri, postponed a parliamentary session to elect a new president of the Republic to March the 11th after the 19th attempt to break the 9-month-long presidential deadlock failed. From the UAE, the Khalij Times leads reporting that military chiefs from around the world will gather in the Saudi capital Riyadh today to assess the battle against Daesh extremists. The paper also reports that the White House says the Justice Department will appeal a federal judge's ruling that temporarily blocked US President Barack Obama's executive action on immigration. Now let's have a look at top Middle East headlines from papers here in London. The Guardian leads Middle East news section reporting that Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has called for a UN resolution mandating international intervention in Libya after launching airstrikes on Islamic State targets, but Western governments look unlikely to agree. The Telegraph leads Middle East news reporting that the Syrian government has committed to suspending airstrikes and artillery shelling on the city of Aleppo for 6 weeks to allow proposed UN plan to freeze hostilities in the country's largest city to be tested. The UN envoy to Syria, Staffan De Mistura, now has to get the opposition's support for the plan, which includes a request for them to suspend rocket and mortar fire in the same period. The Independent leads Middle East news reporting that Iraq's ambassador to the UN is calling on the UN Security Council to investigate allegations that ISIS is harvesting organs, telling ministers, quote, "We have bodies, come and examine them. It is clear they are missing certain parts," unquote. Mohammed al-Hakim claimed militants are harvesting the organs as a way of financing the extremist group's activities. And now let's have a look at top Middle East headlines in international papers. From China, the Global Times reports that ISIS militants captured over 40 people from the Abu Ubaid Sunni tribe, including policemen and members of the government-backed Sawa parliamentary group in the town of al-Baghdadi, executed them and burned them remains. And finally, the International New York Times reports that a report by Israel's state controller says food costs at Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence more than doubled after he took office in 2009, reaching nearly $120,000 in 2012, a third of it in takeout meals. The much-anticipated report comes a month before Israel's elections on March the 17th, and Mr. Netanyahu's challengers seized on it to buttress their assertion that he is out of touch with Israelis struggling to buy apartments and pay grocery bills. And for more updates, please visit levant.tv. Thanks for watching and bye for now.